Docker is an open-source project that automates the development, deployment, and running of applications inside isolated containers. Containers allow developers to bundle up an application with all the parts it needs, such as libraries and other dependencies, and ship it as one package. With Docker, developers can focus on writing code without worrying about the system that their code will run. Maybe you think, why should I use Docker for development? I've got some reasons for that. One of the most important reasons is that you can have a consistent environment for the whole of the team. All developers use the same OS, same language runtime, and so on. With application development using Docker, you don't need to install a bunch of language environments on your system. You can run PHP, Python applications inside the Docker container just by using the Docker images. With Docker, you can use different versions of the same programming language. By using Docker for development, the deployment will get easy. If it runs in your container, it will run on your server just the same. The first step is installing a Laravel project, which can be done using the composer. Go to the directory where you would like to create the project and install the Laravel project using this command: composer create -project Laravel and your project's name. Please wait, it will take a few minutes. That's it. You have a Laravel project. Let's open it with VS Code. Okay. As you can see, the project is currently set up with all Laravel directories. However, we will restructure the project in order to run it on Docker. So select all the files and cut them. Then create a folder with src name and paste your files inside this folder. So then create a new file with docker -compose.yaml name. Now I need to define the version of Docker Compose that I will use. So I choose version 3.8, and in this file we will have different services. For example, Nginx. Then we will have a service for our database, which I will use MySQL, and the phpMyAdmin service for managing our database. And finally, we will have a service for our application. So let's start with Nginx configuration. Nginx is responsible for web serving, and we can use the Nginx image for creating the container. So let's create a container with Nginx name that is using the Nginx image. This container will be exposed on port 80 of our local machine, which is the default port of Nginx container. So Let's define the ports attribute and bind our local 80 port to 80 port of container. We have an attribute which depends on name, which we will define services that Nginx depends on them. So first service is app and the second one is DB, which means before running Nginx, Docker should initialize the app and DB containers that we will cover later. Now we have two volumes to write. First, volumes. First, I want to bind the local src file to the main directory of the container. And then I want to change the Nginx configuration inside the container. So I need to create a config file and bind that file to the container's configuration. So I should create a folder with the Nginx name and another folder with conf.d name inside that folder, and now I want to create a config file with default.conf name, and let's bind Nginx to the config file inside the container. Okay. Now we should config our Nginx based on the following code. It doesn't need any extra explanation, and it's used for Nginx configuration with most basic Laravel apps. So you can just copy this code in your config file, but just make sure that this line should contain your application's services name, which in our video it's app that you can see in Docker Compose file. Here is it's time to create a database service. In this tutorial, I'm going to use MySQL. The DB service is using MySQL image, and I want to give the container MySQL name, but you can give it any name that you would like. And also the default port that MySQL is using is 3306, so I'll use the same port on my local machine. Ports, I want to bind the 3306 port of my local machine to 3306 port on container. Okay. And then I want to define a volume that is attached to the container of MySQL, which is useful for saving our data locally, and it's useful when the container is removed. So I'm trying to create a folder and volume with data name inside my local files, and bind this to var lib MySQL directory inside the container, that is a directory for storing database on Unix-like operating systems. I want to add two environment variables. First one is the name of the database, and the second one is a password for the root user. MySQL database. I want to choose block for my database, and MySQL root password, and I want to use password as a password. phpMyAdmin is a web-based MySQL administration, and it can help you to manage MySQL tables easily using the web. I'm going to use phpMyAdmin image with phpMyAdmin name for container. The default port of the phpMyAdmin container is 80, but I want to map it to 3400 port of my local machine to use phpMyAdmin locally. So I'm gonna define ports attributes and bind my local port to 80 port of container. The phpMyAdmin container depends on DB service. So I will add DB service to the depends on attributes, which means before initializing a phpMyAdmin, the Docker should initialize DB service. Here you are. It's time to open the project on your browser. First, we need to go to the project directory and run this command for building our images. Docker compose build. Okay, that's it. Now, for running our project, we need to run docker compose up-d. It's going to create a network and create our containers. Okay, everything is fine. And now if you go to the 80 port of your local host, you're gonna get the landing page of Laravel. So let's check the phpMyAdmin. Okay. Our phpMyAdmin is running correctly. I've set a password for the root user. Here we are. This is our panel, and we can see the blog database. Also, you can run all Laravel's commands by Docker Compose. For example, if you want to migrate the tables, you can write this command. Go to the src directory and write this command for migrating your tables. Oops, we have an error. Okay. There is something that you should consider. DB connection. You should change this to the container name. And I think we should try this again. Okay, Docker dash compose down. Okay. Docker compose up again. Let's see what's happening. Okay, and migrate. Database, blog, and I think everything is okay. Let's try again. Let's stop Docker Compose and run it again. Oh, sorry, I should change the DB host to DB. Okay. Okay. Everything is okay. So let's refresh the blog database, and you can see all of your tables. For example, if you want to make a model in your project, you can use this command. Model, for example, block. Model created successfully. So if you go to the directory of your models, you can see the block. I hope you enjoyed this video. In the next video, we are going to use Postgres as a database for our project. So don't forget to subscribe to this channel and share your thoughts with me. See you later.